So you mentioned over the years you have been deeply involved in managing and building partnerships, and you've been a major part of your function is about managing relationship with India's leading creators, public figures, studios, creator networks, etc. So have you witnessed any major change in the narrative or any challenge when we talk about partnerships, especially in the post-COVID era?
Yeah, absolutely, Drishti. I think a lot has changed post-COVID. I think fundamentally how businesses are going to be run in the future, right? And how consumers are going to engage with businesses has gone through a fundamental transformation, right? I think underlying trends which may have perhaps taken 5 to 10 years to come through have got accelerated because of COVID, right? So I think if you ask me post-COVID, this is not just a function of what I do at Facebook and Instagram. I think it's a function in general that I think business models are getting reimagined as we speak, right? Every single company in the world of various sizes, whether it's a large Fortune 500 or a BSC, NSE 100 company or a small startup next door, everyone's thinking about how to thrive in a digital based ecosystem, right? So I think business models are changing. I think workplaces are being reimagined. So the workplace that you and Jay will step into would be a fundamentally different workplace from the sort of workplace that I stepped into, or somebody stepped in 2018, right? So, and the consumers are changing. So whether it's business, workplace, or consumers, fundamentally COVID has infused a new transformative way of operating, and I think it's all for the good, right? So while any change in the immediate presents itself in a complex, challenging manner, but over time, I think when we look back at COVID, apart from obviously the tragedy that it has brought in, but I think its impact on the world fundamentally will be of transformation and scale.
Yeah. So, sir, like you've spoken about digital and the entire digital revolution. So we think that digital revolution has reached its peak in the last 2 decades, and we've at MICA we've been constantly trying to understand this entire digital space, and we even have this specialization in digital communication management where we dig deep inside this entire space. So, sir, however, many believe that its full potential is yet to be utilized. So, what are your thoughts on this, and could you give us a glimpse of what lies ahead of us?
Got it. So, Jay, a couple of things. I think, look, I think it's a fallacy to think that something has peaked, right? If there's anything that, I mean, it's like one of those famous quotes which, somebody, I think 1899, the guy who ran the patent office in the US said, everything that had to be invented has been invented, right? Or, I mean, there's this, I don't know if it's true, but it's one quote that sort of there was another guy who said that the future of television is not there. And he spoke in the 30s and 40s and said television has no future, right? And radio was omnipresent. And the fact is, if anything, especially in communications, if there's one thing history teaches us is that nothing really peaks, right? It evolves. So to that extent, I don't think digital has peaked. I think the definition of digital is changing, right? When I went to MICA, you had these big, bulky computers which took hours for a printout, and you would just and the guy who ran the comp society was the most powerful person on campus because he gave you the slot, and then you would go at some 3 a.m. in the morning because you had to print out your assignment. Because if you didn't take out a printout, then you can't submit it, and so on and so forth, right? And I mean, I wasn't bothered because I wasn't into grades, perhaps, but there were some classmates of mine who would put alarms and walk at 3 a.m. to the computer lab, as it was called. That was also digital, but it was digital moving and sort of grappling with an analog world. And today we have digital where you probably don't even take printouts, right? You don't even need that. You could just potentially just have a virtual journey of learning, right? You may not even be in the same classroom, and you may eventually get to graduate, right? I don't recommend that because I think the campus experience is important, but you know what I mean. So I think Jay, look at 3 years back, right? Who would have imagined what COVID has brought? Who would have thought that, you would have work from home? Who would have thought, so many things have changed. So I don't think it's peaked. To the first part of the question, I think it's evolving, and we are yet to see so many things. I think there's so many buzzwords that we all read about. I think, AR, VR, and AI, all of that is sort of scaling at a level we don't perhaps even understand. There's something which Facebook has spoken of called the Metaverse, right? Which is the idea of really having a digital life, and how Facebook as a company is focusing on supporting that journey. and how the future of communities may exist in this metaverse. So, frankly, I think I am no one to be. I'm not an authority to answer that question. Frankly, I don't think anyone is, and that's again is the beauty of digital. That your imagination is the only limit that exists, right? And you probably will be more right about the future, Jay, than I will be, because you could simply be just smarter about being creative and thoughtful about it than I am. So I don't think there's any peaking going on. I think it's changing. It's exciting. I would love to be in MICA now than perhaps 20 years ago. And frankly, the funny thing is, when I was there, people behind me said it was great to be being in MICA when I was. So I guess that's really it, right? I mean,
Right.
I think you guys will step into a very interesting world with a lot more possibilities than perhaps I did.
So classic example of, as you mentioned, evolution.
That's right. Exactly.
Right, sir. So, sir, speaking about like the short form video content, which is taking over the internet, and a lot of businesses as well as creators are leveraging it to further their growth. And for our consumers, we've been enjoying all kind of reels that are there. So, sir, how does a platform like Facebook prioritize between the user, like the consumer, and the businesses while upgrading its features? Because we've been constantly seeing a lot of features coming in.
Yeah. So I think two things to think about here, right? One is user experience, and the user is paramount, right? And it's not about being a platform. In any company, user, consumer, you may call it by different names, but fundamentally, for you to have a thriving enterprise, right, the user has to be at the center of it, right? So I don't think it's about prioritizing one over the other, right? It's about having acute clarity on who your core user is and why they will access your service, right? And that could be because you're Facebook, or it could be because you're a car company, or a hotel, or an airline, or a personal care brand, what have you, right? Or a bank, right? So fundamentally, I think there are no trade-offs to be set up against the user. Coming to us, I think we are very clear. One of the focus for Facebook on users never shifts, right? So the user always comes first, the user's experience and the user's safety, right? And we are very clear on our mission, right? As a company, Facebook's mission is about helping users build community, right? That's our overall reason to exist as a company. And the idea is that when we help users build community, it brings the world closer together. Now, every feature we build, whether it's short form feature like Reels, or it's going to Facebook Watch and watching videos, or it's stories on Instagram and Facebook, or going live on Instagram and Facebook, every feature that you've seen on our platforms or will see in the future will still be in service to that same mission, which is, can it help users build stronger communities and bring people together? MICA is a community, right? Alumni of MICA is a community, current students is a community, your building society is a community, your college and your school is a community. Communities are all around us. That's how we operate as human beings. A company is a community, right? So I think we, whether it's WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook, we're constantly building products, and we are a tech company. Ultimately, we are about, our job in the world is to build great tech products, right? We build products with the user at the center and the mission of building community around it. That never changes. After that comes every other priority, right? And by the way, businesses will only feel supported on our platforms if they find that users are giving it attention, right? And users will only give attention if they find value on the platform. So it's a reinforcing wheel. If you solve for the user, you will solve for the dominoes of value creation. If you don't solve for the user, it doesn't matter how well you treat other parts of the stakeholder ecosystem, it'll collapse. And I think one of the beauties of MICA, to me, is that MICA develops a consumer-first view very quickly in the student, right? So yes, it's about learning techniques. It's about learning what Philip Kotler said, and what the latest brand management models are, and all of that is important. Or but fundamentally, it's about waking up with the consciousness that if you don't solve for the consumer, you won't be able to solve for the business, no matter what business you're in. I think that's really key, Jay.